Thank you for your patience, everybody. Right, cool. Okay, you see this wonderful picture here. I don't know if any of you know it, but it's the worker and the farm girl. It's a Soviet picture. I really like it because it's got so much power behind it. And to me, there's a lot of strength in collaboration, so I thought it was a fabulous thing. And one of the things we sometimes think about collaboration is that it's perhaps very, I don't know, all very wishy-washy and nice, but actually it's really about harnessing power together to get something really wonderful done. Oh, there goes me again. So I just want to know, and once again, I'm struggling with going from one to the other. Could you type in the little chat box there how you're feeling? Are you feeling A, B, C, D, E, or F today? Can't see picture. It's interesting. So that looks like it's stopped. Thank you very much. That's great. Can't see the present. Myself. Lovely. Right. You wouldn't believe we had a technical rehearsal, would you? But we did. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. Apparently now you can see me, you can hear me, you can see the screen, and I can see your chat. So all is well. Good. Thank you very much. The person who's an E. Oh, how lovely. Good. Anybody else? A, B, C, D, E, or F. How are you feeling this morning? It's lunchtime. Cool. So far mainly E's. So that's fantastic. Cool. So, and the problem with this is then I can't. Yeah, you'll just have to bear with me because when I share my screen, I can't go through my presentation, which is rather annoying, and we hadn't looked at that. So I can do this, and I might lose. Oh, I haven't lost you. Good. Okay, all is well. Right, next one. So, sorry about the delays. We'll get this sorted out in a couple of seconds. Okay, so do you want to work in a productive way with others? And do you want to get your ideas implemented in your workplace? Do you want to benefit from more innovative problem solving? All of these things you can get from here, from this session today, and also from working with me further to help you implement them in your team. So why do we need to increase collaboration in the first place? Why is that important? I want to ask a question, which is, in business, how do we get things done? So how do we get things done? If you want to get stuff done in your business, what do you do? How does it happen? And if you find that plans are being stopped along the way, why is that? What stops plans being implemented? And maybe you can think about various things, but the fundamental cause of all of this, of course, is people. People help you get things done. People stop things happening. So if you want to get stuff done, you want to achieve things at work, people are really the key to all of that. And the reason for that is that business is people, and we often forget this. So by forgetting it and not paying attention to it, we're not able to pull the real strong people lever that there is at work to be able to get stuff done. We probably concentrate on whatever our task is, whatever our speciality is, and we forget about the people. But actually, people are the things that drive things through or stop things happening. So they're your effectiveness tool, really. So I wanted to just share with you or ask you to share with us, just by, if you just type it in and I'll share them. What are the benefits of collaboration in your workplace? So this was a question that we sent out. for people to have a bit of a think about beforehand. Someone want to type in what the benefits of collaboration are in their business. Or even, if you can't find the benefits, what about the challenges? Ah, yeah, good. Very good point. Different perspectives and diversity. I'm very glad you raised that, because I've raised them myself in the potential problems of collaboration in a little bit further through the presentation. So I'll be able to share with you some ideas about why that's happening and how that can be resolved. So absolutely. And creating positive change, absolutely. And it is a challenge because you have to get people to buy in the first place. So absolutely, those are the challenges. So for some people, when you say, you know, we're putting team together on this or that or the other, you find that the people are actually terrified and they're running away, and they, you know, don't really want to know about forming another team. They'd rather do things on their own. This is fine, but unfortunately, in today's workplace, we need to move faster. We need to be able to harness more people. When we don't harness people, we end up with silos. And I don't know if any of you have worked in silos, but it's really painful. I've even worked in organizations where there are teams where people are siloed by themselves. I worked in a company, we were working with a client who had a lot of very useful information that they'd bought within the department that was working with us. But because it was a different person, they decided they weren't going to release it to their colleagues in order to help us with our project. So, I mean, clearly extremely destructive behavior and a really terrible culture. And it really just doesn't help the company move on. It makes everybody feel bad. You know, it's really rotten. And you start to think badly of the other teams or the people who are not collaborating. And then comes prejudice and all sorts of bad nonsense, blame cultures, and terrible things happen as a result. Now, collaboration is incredibly important. As I'm saying, 86% of people blame failures at work on poor collaboration and on poor communication. And it just shows you when things fall apart, which of course is not what we want, why that is. And we're back down to people are the key. People make things happen. People stop things happening. I want to share with you the idea that obviously a rowing 8 goes faster than a single scull, and that is, even if you take the weight into account and everything, it is a faster vessel. But I'm sure we've all worked in organisations where we've pulled together as a team, and frankly, it would have been much faster and much easier for everybody to have done things individually. And that doesn't mean that teams are no good. It means that we're not trained in how to run teams. And obviously that makes an enormous difference, and you know that's why the 8 goes faster than the single scull. There's a lady called Margaret Heffernan, and this is her. You will find her, she's written books. She's a sort of serial CEO of IT companies. She's got a lot of talks on TED Talk. She's very accessible, and she talks about teams in terms of resilience and productivity. And so do a number of other people in terms of how collaboration can increase all of that. So your productivity, if you've got your collaboration right, will really rocket really well when you've got it all together. And she has a fabulous talk. In fact, she starts off by talking about chickens. So if you've seen the chicken talk, you've seen this one. But she talks about how actually the best teams are not actually those with all the superstars in them, because the superstars can basically be very destructive to each other. It's those who are most willing to collaborate are actually the best teams. And collaboration increases trust, and trust increases collaboration. And by doing that, you can actually take greater risks with each other. You can have conflict with each other in a safe way. And those are the teams that actually work best. So she talks about teams that have been together for a long time. But importantly, she also says you need some outside stimulus at the same time to be able to keep that team kind of alive and thinking creatively and working effectively. And it is that creative problem solving that is really at the height of collaboration. I'll go on to tell you just a bit more about it in a second, but when you get to the heights of collaboration, then you've trusted each other so much and you have the skills in communication to be able to have safe conflicts. And when you have safe conflict, you can come up with creative problem solving. And that's absolutely the pinnacle of where you want to be. Otherwise, you're thinking about best practice, which is fine, but it's only what your industry is doing. So it is a fairly complacent thing to do, best practice. You need to be thinking outside the box all the time. And to do that, your best way is to be talking with others about it, disagreeing, until by disagreeing, you actually find something that's better than what both of you are thinking. And to do that, you need a lot of trust, and you need to be able to communicate effectively with people who are not the same as you. So why do we need it now? Well, the power of hierarchy is definitely weakening now. So it used to be, of course, that we did what we were told. We came to work because others told us to. But it is definitely now the case that in most industries, we come to work for ourselves. We get out of bed in the morning, in the white-collar workers, particularly in Western society. We get out of bed in the morning because there's something we want to do for work. We want to complete that work for our client, or we want to find that thing out, or we want to stretch our mastery of something. And in actual fact, Dan Pink, who's a fabulous guy who writes on psychology for business, and he talks about there being, he's got TED Talks on online as well, and he talks about there being 3 elements of job satisfaction and motivation, in fact, for white-collar workers, and that is mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And those are the things that motivate people, in fact, more than money, unless, of course, they're being paid really appallingly, in which case probably shouldn't be staying there. But you can't motivate people with money as much as you can by increasing their mastery, increasing their autonomy, and increasing their sense of purpose. So all good. And because hierarchy is weakening, we associate with each other and work together because we want to. So that also means if people don't want to work with you, they just won't. So you have to be somebody that people want to work with. You have to be someone who can harness people to their cause if you're a team leader. So really important. If you look here, this is a study from McKinsey predicting the skills that we'll need in 2020. And you can see here, not surprisingly, of course, that we'll be spending, according to them, 55% more hours on technology, using technology skills than we do now. But we'll also be using social and emotional skills 24% more. So that's a lot. And higher cognitive skills as well. But what this shows is that there is a prediction for a need for increased collaboration. And once again, that comes from the fact that teams also not necessarily vertical, a lot of temporary teams, horizontal temporary teams being developed. And so our skills at collaborating at an instant's notice and then pulling out and joining another team is are going to be really important here. And understanding how people work is going to be the basis of that. So business is people. Now, the sad thing about all this is that we're not taught how the business machine works. Which is, when you think about the fact that it is the machine, this is a business is people, the fact that we don't learn how to do that is a crime and a real omission on behalf of, well, organizations and also our education at university, etc. I mean, this should be the absolute fundamentals to how to work with people to get what you want, because that's what we do. So yeah, we need to do something about that. Because people are our gatekeepers and they are our facilitators. And the question is it going to be someone who closes the gate to you, or is it somebody who is going to facilitate you? And how do you turn person from one to the other? So what's going on in that head of theirs? I want to talk to you a little bit briefly about what I bring to the party here. I know that some of you know me and some of you don't. So those of you that do know me, forgive me for this introduction to those who don't. I've built a couple of businesses, one in London and one here in Sydney, and both of them focusing on consumer motivation, really. So understanding what makes people do what they do, and then advising organizations, the likes of, globally, the likes of Coca-Cola and Nike and Guinness and all sorts of people, on how to build relationships with consumers and how to change behavior, frankly, or how to confirm behavior, whichever it needs to be. So that's been the basis of the companies that I've built. And now I'm working in a practice, or I've got a practice which is about helping people with collaboration and influence. So people being at the center of business, as far as I'm concerned, it's about working out whether you, how you can work better with other people, or how you can create greater influence in an organization. So I'm working with ambitious teams who understand that business is people along those lines. So that's how. Good. So some say there is no point in learning people's skills because it's not part of their job. And anyway, surely we know it anyway because we are people. Now, I don't know if any of you are those sorts of people, but if you are, I've got a good news for you, and that is that I really strongly disagree with you. I say that knowing how to empower people and how to harness them to your cause is arguably the most valuable thing you can learn. Because when you've learned that, you can learn it in all parts of your organization. And, you know, that is great. You can also use it for your private life, whatever it is. These are just skills we should be taught, is how to work with each other, how to deal with each other. The most valuable thing you can learn. I want to show you a collaboration ladder, and in a minute I'm going to ask you to vote on this, so you need to pay attention. I'd like you to have a think about how collaborative your team is, or your company is. So starting at the bottom, first level is cancerous, and this is a very destructive level. Now, I'm really sorry for you if you are or have been in a company like this. I've briefly been in one. I didn't stay very long. High level of disrespect between people. Obstructive behaviors, people aiming for you to fail, and actually manipulating things so that you do. Highly political, of course, bullying, and of course, this is horribly destructive for your company. It'll destroy the dollars, because you're destroying the value of your organization and everything it produces because of that. And people here will not be averse to damaging clients in order to damage a colleague. So it's horribly destructive, but it does exist, and happily not for long, because the companies can't survive like that. But of course, you can't set goals. You've got very bad staff retention, very bad productivity. You know, it's a nightmare. So hopefully you guys are not there. Next one looks awfully nice, doesn't it? But this is about compliance. So this is about doing the bare minimum. Now, this is a level 2, so this is decline. So the company's still in decline at this point. People are attending meetings, you know, physically they're there, though they may arrive late, or they may leave early, but it's a minimum standard, and there's still quite a bit of blame flying around. There's definitely a lot of passing the buck. No one wants to do any work, almost on principle, so that others can do it instead. So sure, it's not as angry as the first level, but this level is still pretty bad. Very low level of responsibility, slow partial goal achievement, and low satisfaction. So no one's going to go home from work and say they had a great day at work. And then one of the things that I've always been keen, I've always liked work. I think one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing here is because I've always loved work. I lied to get my first job when I was 11, was just washing up in a cafe, but I think it had to be 13 or something, and I lied horribly about it. I've always loved work because I find it so rewarding, and I think a lot of it is about choosing the right place for you and being in charge of that. And I've been self-employed for almost all my life, so of course I've been able to choose whatever I wanted to do. It's so many hours of your life that if you can make it rewarding, then surely it's a joy. So these people are clearly not very happy, but they don't seem to want to get out of it because no one else is trying hard. So why should I? So bare minimum, not good. Third level, right? A lot of companies stop at the third level. I've definitely had a company that stopped the third level here. And we loved each other. It was so friendly and welcoming. What a great place to work. Everyone was, concerned about your weekend or how you were, and everyone was very supportive, and there was a lot of mutual respect and a lot of interdependence. People were very helpful, but the one thing they didn't do was disagree with each other. I remember at that time that we actually had a trainer come in to coach us, because I've always been a fan of coaching and training, so I've always bought it for myself and for my companies. Excuse me. So I remember him saying, so how high is your trust level? And we all beamed at each other and said, oh, trust each other implicitly, absolutely. And so then he said, so how much disagreement do you have? And we all went silent, and he said, why don't you have any disagreement? And I said, we said, well, because we just get on with each other. So he said, well, do you call each other to account when you haven't done things? And I thought, we don't really do that. If one person hasn't done what they said they would do, and another person hasn't said what they would do, then they tend to let each other off so that they don't hold each other to account and put pressure on each other. Obviously not very helpful. So we improved the situation from then. That was a real eye-opener. So these guys achieved some goals. They have a supportive culture, but as I say, they don't really hold each other to account. And also one of these things, I don't know, you've heard the difference between people liking you at work and people respecting you at work. It's often said it's a female thing. This is where whoever's doing just the liking, this is where they stop. You can't get any higher than this unless you really go for respecting each other. And I'm not talking about respecting hierarchy or, respecting your boss. I'm talking about respecting each other. And also respecting yourself, self-respect at work. So you have to go further than this. And that's up to collaborative. Now, collaborative teams have very strong growth. They have constructive disagreement. So they have the skills for that. You can't just pile in because you will offend people. But if you've got the skills to do this, then you can create wonderful things as a result of the different ideas and the different points of view and, different standpoints. This is where you get real trust. I've been reading a lot of books about collaboration lately, and one of the things seems to be quite clear is the really strongly collaborative teams, the really high-performing teams, have been forged in fire. So they've been through a trauma. And I'm not suggesting that you create a trauma, but this is why if you go on these away day things, which I don't organise, they make you do mud runs and bad things until you have to help each other out in a crisis, and that creates greater trust. And that's why they do it. And of course, there is an element of that too. They do mutual motivation here. They're very proactive. And that way you get rapid achievement and you get empowerment, you get creative problem solving, you get where are the opportunities, and you get a team that's really confident with change and with taking up new opportunities, because they've seen that they're able, as a group, to continue disagreeing but still committed to working together. And that's the big thing, is do you disagree and still you're committed to working together? And working together not necessarily meaning we have to go by what I say. So this is the real level of collaboration that is required to make teams really go on fire. Well, you can imagine working for one of these, you'd have to get used to it to start with, because while people would be very friendly, they wouldn't have any problems suggesting better ways to do things. But if you can get that and really take that on board and take it as an empowering communication, as it's intended to be, then you can all get better at a rate of knots. So that becomes a fantastically strong functioning team. Now, what I'm going to do now is try and get myself back to the original screen. So you may lose the screen sharing for a minute. You won't lose my voice, hopefully. And I'm going to set up a poll up and see if you can tell me where you think your company is on here. All right, so have a little look now, because I'm going to take it off the screen. Are you level 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I'm going to set the poll up and you'll be able to vote. First time I've done this, so please bear with me, but it should work. We did practice yesterday, so hopefully. So, oh yes, this is just me telling you about how you're ineffective at the bottom and effective at the top, but I reckon you've probably got that by now. Cool. Yeah. So, time to vote. And let me get off here. and get on to, that's, polling, here we go. Here you go, launch poll. You can still see the screen, good. Okay, so this should come up on your screen now. And it would be good if you could vote. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Oh, good for you. Oh, look at that. Look at all those lovely caring companies. Oh, and a collaborative one. Brilliant. Well done. Excellent. And a compliant. Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Well, I reckon you can probably see this. If you can't, we have, more. Got a couple of collaboratives. Good, fantastic. And got a little flashing light. Oh, in the chat. Yours can't see the results. Okay, fine. So let me tell you what they are. Thank you, Lissy. So yes, so the results are we have 0 at cancerous, thank goodness, 11% at compliant, 67% at caring, and 22% at collaborative. So good. I mean, that's pretty good. I think in some organisations, in some industries, you'd get much larger number for compliant. But I'm delighted to see that, basically, I suppose, if you are compliant and you're in those organisations and you've been there for a while, you probably wouldn't be coming on a webinar because you couldn't be bothered. So that's fantastic. So well done, brilliant. That is the poll. With a bit of a shortfall of people getting stuck at caring. And boy, do I know about that. I know how to change that because I've done it in my businesses. So yeah, I can definitely help you with that. And I'm about to show you how to do that. Where are we? 12 o'clock, okay, good. Right, now I should go back onto this. Oh, questions. Yes, push creativity. Yes, thank you, Alberta. Good. Right, going back onto here now. Oh, yes, cool. All right. Now, let's go on to this. So let's go on to this. I'm going to help you resolve this, hopefully. So one of the things that you guys said, and others have done too, is it's hard to collaborate with people who have different priorities from you. And of course, that's true. That is difficult. You come together and they don't really care. And why on earth should they participate? You know, and one of the things that I recently had what I call a dinner for 8 on this, which is getting senior people in various industries together to talk about it. And some of my learning has also come from that, as well as having shared my learning at the event. And yeah, they were saying, well, look, what if you've got people who are in a team who are also part of another team, not really interested, you know? And the answer really is this here, which is that you need to be able to agree a common purpose. And yes, if you're leading that, and yes, you have to have a team leader, you have to have one. And I'm not talking about agile here because it's this is sort of just good principles for teams. You need to work on agreeing a common purpose, and you need to get that agreed. You need to sell it in, basically. If you don't have that as a strong focus, then you're going to be in trouble. So you need to start there. Even though it may seem fluffy and pointless, and they're saying, oh, you know, let's just get together and do this thing. No, why are we here? What is the purpose? Because you may well find, in fact, more than likely to find, that you're actually in a different position from somebody else. They may think this is about something else. And one of the things, or you can go through all of, Simon Sinek's why and all of those processes, of course. But the key to this for me is, when I've tried to do it, is to try and say, okay, what is the verb? So is your job to inform something, to guide something, to help, to drive? And each of those will deliver a different outcome, as will what is the context. So are you delivering a brand? Are you delivering a project? Are you delivering a business solution? Are you delivering something to an organization, to a stakeholder? Who do you see yourselves as being responsible to, or what do you see yourself as being responsible to? And when you look at both of those, you find that there is a difference in terms of what you would deliver and how you would go about it, and what people you might need on the team to be able to deliver that. And what briefing you might need and how you might structure your work. Everything is very different. And you think you all know what it is. When you start to write it down, you find that it requires some decision making. And then it requires some agreement And if you are leading the team and you've got a responsibility for that, then you need to be able to sell in that purpose, and so that people are happy with it. Also, you need to be able to sell it in a way that people feel empowered by working on the team, and that requires understanding where they're coming from. But we'll come to that in a minute. So another one. The others in the team are not like me and they don't really get it. Now, if you've got a team of people who are, you've all come from the same background, you've studied roughly the same thing, you think in the same ways, that may well not be the issue. But when you're more and more working in cross-functional teams, you'll find people who are very different from you, people who are ostensibly more creative or more analytical, more detail-driven, more big picture, more traditional, more progressive, and perhaps because you've been working more within the team that you're in, you might find that a bit of a challenge, because you might always have thought to yourself, oh, well, I'm like this. And one of the issues is, of course, that everybody thinks people should be more like them. That's just how we are. We think, however we are, we're a big picture, detail person. We either think to ourselves, oh, goodness, eventually they'll learn to be able to come up from the detail and get the big strategic view. And if you're a detail person, you'll think to yourself, goodness, eventually, surely, they'll be able to pay attention to the detail in the way that I can. It's shocking that we can't pay attention to all of those details. I can't absorb them. So this is really about getting on with people, or more than getting on with people. It's actually about mutual respect, genuine mutual respect, not just lip service, especially for people who are different, very different from you. You need to find a way to celebrate the different perspectives in the team, because the fact that you're different is part of the reason why your team is going to be such a brilliant success. So how can we each be useful to each other? And of course we can, and that's why we're there. One of the ways to think about it is that people who are different from you love the things that you hate. And you can concentrate on the things that you love and you're really good at, because they're really good at their stuff and they'll handle that. And it allows you to leaves you more freedom in a way, because you're working with people who can handle that on your behalf. So you need to understand. That. That's good. Third one. I'm not getting buy-in from some of the others. They seem resistant somehow. So, coping with passive aggression, and that's here. That basically, people just being stubbornly just not buying in. Well, first of all, you do need to have those common purpose that you've sold in the first place. Do they actually believe in it? If they don't believe in it, you're not going to get buy-in, because they don't want the end result. So why on earth would they join? So that's for you to do that. Now, what is important now really is the communication skills. So what I use and what I train in is effective communication that's adapted to empower different styles of people, so that they can see it on their own terms. So what is style? What style does each person respond best to in terms of communication and behaviour? And obviously, there's a whole training package behind this, which I won't bore you with at the moment. But it's incredibly powerful, because you can suddenly see how things seem from the perspective of others, and you can phrase things and you can behave in a way that makes that an empowering thing for others, without changing who you are and without being disingenuous in any way. So how to use the language to create that true buy-in and that true empowerment from others. This collaboration is really about empowering others by working with you. That's kind of how it works. So, Professor, before I go into there's a fourth one, of course. Before I go into the fourth one, Professor Amy Cuddy of Harvard University is a social scientist. Now, I don't know if any of you've seen any of her talks or read her books. She's the one who talks about, or has done the experiment that tests levels of testosterone. So she has basically, if you are, say you're nervous and not feeling very confident, her tests, blood tests of testosterone levels show that if you stand in a very positive position, arms up, hands on my hands on my hips, for 2 minutes, that actually physically increases the testosterone in your body, and as a result, you do feel and therefore behave far more confidently. So she talks about that, but that's not really what I was going to talk about here. So what she's also said is that you have to gain trust with people before you can impress them. Now, I know amongst all of you who are here today with us that you are very clever. And I tell you what, being clever can be the bane of your life, to be honest, because you can think to yourself that people should be impressed and that they should trust you because you're clever. But it really doesn't work like that. First of all, they have to trust you. Then they can be impressed by you. But you have to pull the people lever first. It doesn't have to be big. It's just a way of communicating. So I'm talking about those styles of communication that make people feel instantly that you're on their side. Now, you probably know the answer to this, so you can type this one in maybe. So the question, what's the role of the handshake? And everybody tell me what the role of the handshake is. Just type it in and see if anybody's got the answer to this one. We all used to know this. I don't know if everybody knows it now. Connection, yes, absolutely. Connection is one. And yes, yes, all of those things. So we've got connection, and we've got dropping defenses. Yes, check that there are no weapons. Indeed, it is all of those things. So basically, you're showing your hand to show, and giving it to them to show that you do not carry weapons. And then they allow you into their space, whatever that happens to be, their tent or whatever it is, some medieval ideas, or their castle or whatever it happens to be. Absolutely, all of those things. So that's what it is. And what I'm saying now is that just by the way that you appear, the way that you behave when you first meet somebody, the words you use, the terminology, the speed at which you talk, the amount and type of body language, everything within a minute will tell them whether they feel you're a threat or not. Are you their sort of person or not their sort of person? It's a very powerful thing to learn, and if you use it, it increases trust enormously, and then you can then go ahead and impress them, all you clever people. So that's all good. They know you haven't got any guns. Right, fourth thing, you've got all these people on this team. How are you going to stop them running off in different directions? And, you know, it's a pain to try and keep it all together and on track and all those sorts of things. Well, of course, you know, the answer to this one is all about shared process. So this is how you get your high standards and you get your planning sorted out. But your processes can be various. They can be from just managing the culture. So let's not forget you can do a process for that. So there are rituals about managing the culture that you can do. So you can instill things that are about your team that your team always does. It doesn't have to be big, it can be really small. And that can be a process. So you can embed that. You can do project management, of course. There are loads of project management solutions out there. You know, there are a lot that are linked to Outlook and Microsoft's packages. Lucy and I use Asana, and we're very wedded to that. So there's lots of ways to keep in track with what is going on, and so people can tick off things that they've done, etc. But that's a very controlled process. What you also should be thinking about for yourself is in what way can you have processes that inspire creative input and thinking from individuals as you go along. Because if not, you end up with a very contained tick box solution. So there's ways that you can think about this, and I think that's something that really needs to be done within your team. It's a facilitation thing. That's one of the things I do for facilitation in this, is to, okay, how do we ensure that everything stays fresh? Now, remember I mentioned Margaret Heffernan and her chickens, and also the, you know, things she's done with her teams, about you need that, you need, if you like, that fertilization of great ideas that come in from outside, or maybe even come in from outside people's heads somehow into the team. So you need to be able to stimulate that creativity so that you're getting the good ideas as they're going along, and the whole thing is flexible and adaptable. So that is good. Right. Here's the meaty stuff. Now at the end, you have an opportunity to, well, we will definitely send this to you anyway, but these are worksheets for you to evaluate your collaboration essentials. So I'm just going to check the time. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go through them in great detail because you can read them, but basically this is a laddering system for each of these 4 essentials of collaboration: shared purpose, mutual respect, effective communication, and shared processes. So for each of these, what is really would be useful if you're interested in, you know, just running ahead and doing this, or if you're interested in doing it with me, we'll do it together. But anyway, you tick these off. So how far up are you on each of these? And then you can work to increase the level on each of these 4. And of course, there's training that can be done, or work on your own to do it, or whatever it happens to be. And on the other side, so I always print this off as a piece of A3 and flip it over. And this is what's on the back of it, is a diagnosis and action list. So you can plot your scores on the right if you like plotting things. And then you can have a think on each of them, how it's impacting your goals, the fact that you have that score, what a top score would enable you to do, what's the main challenge and what's the main thing you need to improve. And that's across all of those, and that's in the materials that we'll send across to you. So question time, any questions? Perfect. I'll move forward, but carry on typing if you're typing. Good. Before I completely finish, just to share with you what I'm doing and what's available in the programs that I'm running. So my business is about people, as you probably realized. I could talk about oiling your business, and this is about collaboration and influence, and that builds into the core of building professional, powerful business relationships. That then extends into revenue generation for professionals, and also into influential teams. So it can be about being more influential within your organization, or it can be about generating sales outside. And there are various other components as well. So these are the 3 areas, sort of split out a bit, from isolation to collaboration, and then creating commercial consultants, and then the influential teams. How to get your free resources. So first thing to say is, when we send you an email, click to sign up so it doesn't get stopped by your server. So we believe that the first email will go through, but we are, as with all software CRM systems, sometimes are stopped by servers or put into your junk mail. But it doesn't if you click to sign up, it'll come straight through to you. So if you do want these resources, which we would love you to have, then do make sure that you just say yes. So what would you get? A link to the recording of the webinar. I'm just going to make it available for a week. So these are all downloadable. The collaboration ladder model, of course, here, the 4 essentials of collaboration, 2 collaboration worksheets, which I've just been through for you and your team to work through, the link to Margaret Heffman's video, and 2 articles and blogs on collaboration. So if you're interested in those, don't forget to click to sign up, so it doesn't get stopped by your server. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you about how could it increase your collaboration and influence in your business. So that's my email address, easy to remember, but I'm sure you can find me everywhere you look, probably, thanks to Lucy's social media initiatives. And I just wanted to thank you very much indeed for coming along today, and I hope you found it useful. Please do send through comments, anything at all that this is my first webinar, as I've said. Any tips and tricks from your end as to how it was, what worked, what didn't work, would really help us in the future. So yeah, please let us know. Good. Thank you very much for attending, giving me your time. Cool.